starring in a couple major films, but I knew deep down inside I was made for more. At first, I was a liberal Democrat, but then I switched to the Republican view in 1962. After some very hard work, I was elected governor of California in 1966. Because I wasn't scared, I made a positive changes to California, even protesting scared me. I ran for president a couple times and lost, but I didn't stop trying because I love America. I finally won in 1980, beating out my buddy Jimmy Carter. In this present crisis, government is not the solution to our problem. Government is the problem. Yeah, I said that. See, the thing is, I've never been scared to do the right thing. Can you believe someone tried killing me while I was president? But I'm tough, and remember, not scared. I feel like I did good for this country as well as others while I was president and after. I even helped bring down the Berlin Wall. My greatest accomplishment is my 5 beautiful children. And my amazing wife, Nancy. Unfortunately, I was diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease in 1944. I like to believe before I died on June 5th, 2004, I never forget how much I love this country. Don't forget, life is one grand sweet song, so start the music.
I am only one, but still I am one. I cannot do everything, but I still can do something. I will not refuse to do something I can do, by Helen Keller. My great American's name is Helen Keller. She has one sister, a mother, and a father. Helen Keller's early life is that she was born normal, just like us. At the age of 19 months, she got a disease called scarlet fever and became deaf and blind. Helen received a bachelor's degree and used it to teach and learn. Helen's contribution to the United States is that she was an author. She taught people how to sign, and she is also known for making a special kind of braille. Helen Keller was born on June 27, 1880 in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. At 19 months, she got scarlet fever. Helen did not have a good childhood because she would hurt people's feelings and break people's toys. At 6 years old, Alexander Graham Bell showed Helen's parents a school for deaf and blind. Helen's first teacher was her mother. However, Helen's behavior was not good, so they brought her to the Perkins Institute, and Sullivan took over her learning and taught her how to converse. Helen's contribution to the United States was to make the lives of blind survive better. The reason why Helen contributed is so important is so people won't be miserable. The way the USA would be different is that a lot of people would not believe in themselves. I admire Helen Keller because it would not be fair to the people without her. My great American's name is Helen Keller. My great American's early life is she was the first of 2 daughters. Helen's education is her bachelor's degree. She taught science and arts and was an author. Helen Keller contributed one type of braille to be in every book for people that can't see. Helen died on June 1st, 1968 of old age. Helen is a great example showing people that they can do anything no matter what.
Nona, Yaya, Abuela, Babushka, and Grandmere. These are some ways to say grandmother in different languages. I have a Lola. She's from the Philippines, and her story is worth retelling. My Lola was a baby during World War II in the Philippines. As stated in the World Book Encyclopedia, World War II killed more people, disturbed more lives, and probably had more far-reaching consequences than any other war in history. A story that really impresses me is that they had to hide in a river and breathe out of grass reeds to survive. I can only imagine how scary this would have been. Thankfully, there were survivors, and one of them is very special to me, my Lola. She went on to live an adventurous life. My Lola is very smart. We have a lot in common. She was the valedictorian of her high school. She was also one of the few women to major in chemical engineering at college. At 24, she left to America. She moved to New York City. Even though she's 4'11", she has a big, brave personality. She's tiny, but mighty. When I think of my Lola's personality, a few things come to my mind. I know she must be very religious because whenever something stressful is going on, I hear her say, "Lord, give me strength." And it passes on to my mom and aunt. So to conclude, they're all very religious. Her true personality, not at Sam's Club, is kind of like a drill sergeant. She gets up every morning at 5 o'clock, makes her cup of coffee, almost chokes taking her pills with a banana, then does her morning exercises. It's like a beautiful baby bird taking flight. And then Swiffers. My grandfather would say her two best friends are the Swiffer and the Dustbuster. She adores and loves her 6 grandchildren. Every time she goes on a trip, she brings me something back. I recently got a giant pink sombrero that is so big it took up the whole trunk of their car. Lastly, and most importantly, is her cooking. She is an amazing chef. My taste buds scream, "Feed me," when I go to her house. My favorite Filipino dishes she makes are lechon, which is pork with crunchy skin, and chicken adobo with a brown vinegar sauce. It makes my mouth water just thinking about it. My Lola is a wondrous person. I'm grateful she survived World War II and passed on her qualities to me. She is an amazing role model. My grandmother's story will live on.
I'm Nikki, and I'm going to tell you how I can make my school maybe be a lot better. One way is to replace all traditional homework. And yes, I said all. To read anything for half an hour to 1 hour. Another way is to screen kids for mental illnesses because it's easier to treat and more effective if treated early. My class already does this, but my friend's class doesn't. We should give the kids time to recharge, like recess. We should also use Newton.com, and no, I do not mean Mrs. Newton, who works in the gifted pod. Newton.com will let the student customize their curriculum and will attend to the student's educational needs. The cafeteria should have a repaint design except the painting of the back of the eagles. And hopefully the repaint design will encourage healthy eating. Now, on to PE. The coaches should have a positive reinforcement. And by that, I mean they would see how one student in particular does in the beginning of the time period in that week that they are there, and in the end of the time period in that week that they are there. And if they excel in that one week, they get to choose what they do the next time that they are there. And even if it's double PE, but they need to be there for both PEs, and it has to be something they've done in the past. The coaches should also engage the students in class. The way they would do that is they would see how individually how students do in the beginning of the year and how they do at the end. If they excelled this much, they only get 1 piece of candy. But if they excelled this much, they get 1 piece of candy and a trip to the treasure box, or 2 trips to the treasure box. Hope you enjoy my TEDx speech. Bye!
We'll be talking about Walt Disney, who was a great American in the 1900s. Walt Disney was born in December 5th, 1901 in Chicago, Illinois. He was a good he spent most of his life in Marceline, Missouri, where he spent his time drawing, painting, and selling pictures. He took art classes in McKinley High School, and when he was 16, he dropped out of high school so he can join the Army, but since he was underage, instead he joined the American Red Cross. Walt Disney's education was in McKinley High School, Benton Grammar School, Kansas City Art Institute, School of Design, School of Art Institute of Chicago, and more. When Walt Disney was a good student back then, but with lots of talents, but since he had dyslexia, he failed all of his classes. Walt Disney's contribution was that he transformed the entertainment industry with his unique animation techniques. His contribution was so important because then all of his characters such as Mickey Mouse, Minnie Mouse, Goofy, Pluto, and more wouldn't be real. Also, there wouldn't be any good entertainment during the war. In conclusion, I talked about his early life, his education, and his contribution. And a fun fact is that his full name is Walter Elias Disney.
First of all, everybody knows that drinking while driving is bad.
right?
Yeah.
Did you know that the hangover effects of alcohol the next day can make it hard to concentrate and drive safely? It may also cause you to fall asleep while you're driving. Alcohol is a depressant. That means having the quality of lowering vital activities. And like I said, alcohol is a depressant because it slows down the functions of the central nervous system. That means that the normal brain function is delayed, and the person that had alcohol is unable to act normally. Alcohol affects a person's cognitive skills, known as your information processing skills. Not only that, but alcohol can also affect your psychomotor skills, known as hand-eye coordination. Consuming alcohol and then driving can increase car accidents, highway injuries, and vehicular deaths. For example, on the bottom right, it says that in 2005, more than 40,000 people died. If a person consumes a great amount of alcohol, they are probably going to be involved in an accident. Related crashes to alcohol are the leading cause for young Americans that are between 16 and 24 years old. Drunk driving can lead to terrible accidents, such as killing someone, losing a life, and living with guilt that you injured or caused an accident. In 2008, 11,773 people were killed in alcohol-related crashes. That was equated to one death every 45 minutes. Of those 11,773, 216 were innocent children who were 14 or younger. According to national statistics, an average of 12,000 people die every year in alcohol-related accidents. There is an average of 900,000 arrested each year for DUIs, driving under the influence, or DWIs, driving while intoxicated. And 1/3 of those are repeated offenders. Every day, innocent people have their lives destroyed by people who decided they were okay to drive when in fact they were not. If I were those people who decided they were okay to drive when they weren't, I'd keep that in mind the next time they decide to get behind the wheel.
As Harriet Tubman once stated, there was one of two things I had a right to, liberty or death. Harriet Tubman was a slave who never gave up in the 1800s. Although this time was long ago, her journey is worth knowing. To begin, Harriet Tubman was born in Maryland around 1820. She was one of 9 children born to enslaved parents. If you were a slave child, you began work around age 6. Girls would work in the house and boys worked in the fields. Life for her was not easy. When she was tempted by a sugar cube that belonged to her master, just because she ate the 1 cube of sugar, she was sent back to her owner and put in the fields to work. There was even a time that she tried to help another slave from an angry master. She got in the way of their argument and got struck in the head by a heavy weight. This horrible hit to her head caused her to have fainting spells for the remainder of her life. Harriet's childhood was full of struggles, pain, and emptiness. Moving along, Harriet Tubman achieved many of her goals. Her main goal was not to be sold into the deeper South. She wanted to get out of slavery. As she got older, she learned about the Underground Railroad. No, this is not railroad tracks for trains. It was a secret route runaway slaves would take to travel from the South to the North. Kind white folks who were against slavery would help them along this passage. By age 30, Harriet used the Underground Railroad and reached freedom and arrived in Pennsylvania in 1849. Ultimately, Harriet is not a famous American hero because she saved herself from slavery. Instead, she left her freedom in order to help hundreds of others. As stated in the book Journey to Freedom, Harriet accomplished a lot as one of 3,000 conductors in American history. Harriet was determined to return to the South and bring all her family members to a better life. She accomplished this goal along with rescuing 300 other slaves who were not even her family. Amazingly, she was never caught and she never lost a slave. To conclude, Harriet Tubman was an important member of American history. Harriet's traits of determination, courage, and toughness are traits that American children use in the world today. Life is challenging, but we have it way easier than Harriet did.
If Harriet didn't give up, there is no way I am going to let test or swim practice defeat me. In closing, remember Harriet's final thoughts. Every great dream begins with the dreamer.
We have probably been to a beach, but many little of us have been in this water. This water is caused by the dead zone. Dead zone is caused by farmers in Northern America putting fertilizer on their plants. When they put fertilizer on their plants, the wind pushes the fertilizer off their plants and the fertilizer enters the Mississippi River. When it enters the Mississippi River, it flows into the Gulf of Mexico. When it goes into the Gulf of Mexico, it kills all the living animals, including coral, plants, plankton, and all different types of animals. When it kills plankton, it kills the oxygen because plankton produces oxygen. With no plankton, there's no oxygen being produced. This is beginning to affect. This is affecting Texas, Louisiana, Alabama, Georgia, and it's beginning to affect Florida. This is beginning to destroy our government because people are moving out of these states because of the dead zone. When they move out of these states, less people pay taxes, and less people paying taxes means there's no money for the government to build schools, banks, grocery stores, or communities. The dead zone today is the same size as New Jersey. This is the only dead zone. There's over 55 dead zones worldwide. This also causes fishermen to lose their jobs because they spend so much money on gas crossing the dead zone, and they get no fish. And with no fish, when they come back to the dock, they don't get paid because they don't have any fish. And with no money, they can't buy homes, they can't buy food, which causes them to go homeless. Every year, this causes over 1,000 fishermen to go homeless. Full stop this soon, this might distort our entire government.
Did you know at one time a civilized tribe of Indians were forced to leave their land and walk thousands of miles to relocate? Today we are going to tell you about the Cherokee Indians and the injustice which led to the Trail of Tears. At one time the Indians had been living peacefully, and then in the 1820s President Andrew Jackson told the Indians they had to move. The Indians had to walk over 800 miles towards the west to their new home, Oklahoma.
John Ross, also known as Chief Little. John represented the tribe. He was a short but confident man who was trying to convince the president, who was in charge of our nation, not to have the Indians moved from their farmland or leave their lives. He did not want them to be forced to move to another state, but President Jackson gave an 8-year deadline. On May 1830, the soldiers began their assignments, in which was the Indian Removal Act, a law passed by Congress. President Andrew Jackson sent the United States soldiers to tell the 5 Indian tribes, the Choctaw, Cherokee, Creeks, Seminoles, and Chickamaugas, to get out of their houses. With guns, they were forced to walk 800 miles to get to Oklahoma. If they refused, their homes were burned and belongings taken. On the walk, a disease came over the 5 tribes. Many didn't survive. 18,000 started the journey, but over 40,000 died. The soldiers had to watch the Indians so they would not run away from the trail or try to escape. Many of the Indians got sick from hunger and unclean living conditions. Some were thrown into the stockade or temporarily jailed. Many Indians died of starvation and exhaustion.
It was the middle of winter when they started walking. They had to walk over 800 miles. Those who died along the way were buried under a shallow grave on the side of the road, as the ground was cold and frozen. Some didn't even get a grave. They died where they walked. they were the ones that took their land, homes, and belongings. The tribes were feeling miserable and horrible. So they kept on walking and kept their thoughts in their head. The white only saw the color of the Indian skin. The whites looked at them like they were a nuisance. But the tribes kept walking, for the tribes, the walk on the Trail of Tears would never end.
In 1839, the Indians that did survive had arrived in the West, but they were not the only ones in their new land. The tribes that settled there first claimed the Cherokees were traitors by those known as the Old Settlers. They did not like or trust each other. For 7 years they fought, until finally reaching an agreement in 1844 to create a new